hold your ground. Hold your ground, sons of doctors, of doom, my brothers! I see it in your eyes, the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day, an hour of wolves and shattered shields when the age of sharks comes crashing down. But it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear in this good ocean, I bid you swim, sharks of the west. Since swim they did, as the mighty sharks held their ground in an epic stand of Fantasy D in the biggest blowout of the season, as they continue their dominance. It's time, once again, to welcome you all into the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast, where I am your still undefeated host, laying the smackdown on the rest of the league, Alex the Shark Sparks, and joining me as always is my team's latest victim, Mitch, it's golf rules, right? Black, and of course, the hardest working producer in the biz, showing up even when he's sick, it's Vinny Sore Throat Santucci. Say hello to the lunatics out there who actually listen to us yap each week, boys.
Hello.
What's up, guys? I just realized the only thing higher than my body temperature right now is the amount of points I scored this week, so I'll take it.
Heyo.
I can't compete when I only score 65 points. I've had a terrible 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's go
Well,
ahead
actually,
and
with
take a look at that blowout if you don't mind. Let me just go ahead and see if I can pull that up here. Hold
Oh,
on.
I have no problem letting the audience see you get 51 fantasy points from 3 players you picked up this week off waivers. I have no problem.
So you're saying I'm a good coach because I played the waiver wire well.
That's a
Thank you.
very no, that's a very well done. It used to be a lot of times, especially with your dad having like Bills D or something like that, or the Ravens D over the years. A lot of times you take one D that locks in a ton of points and outscores everyone. It seems that you are ahead of the curve, and this year is very much so play waiver wire matchups. I know people do that all the time. You try and find the worst team, like who's playing the Texans before they had Stroud, or who's playing the Panthers this year before they had Dalton starting, but you've done a very good job of rotating your defenses. Well done.
Thank you, thank you. I
you
try.
for
I am concerned moving forward though. I do have a couple of plus signs in my running back spot, and that is the slot that I'm kind of weakest. So we'll see. Ironically, with Singletary being hurt, I actually feel good about his backup Tracy. But if they both play, that really hurts because I have to start one of them this week. So we'll see how that goes. Vinny, do you have any thoughts on your game? Because you also dropped the hammer this week, scoring the most points in the league. I couldn't quite catch you. I was 4 short of you. So anything you have to say
yeah,
about your squad?
yeah, a couple things, but I did want to kind of use your intro as a chance to jab at Mitch a little bit. For someone who picked Patrick Mahomes last week, he's sure doing his best Scotty Scheffler impression.
Oh yeah, who has Mahomes in this league? Chris.
Yeah, that was Chris.
Yeah.
So, but no, I was actually just talking about it with the guys before this. Is the funniest part about my week this week is that speaking of waiver wires and drafting depth, the only 2 people that I drafted that started this week that were anticipated to be in my starting lineup were Marvin Harrison and Kittle, and they combined for 15 of my 118. So everybody else was a waiver wire pickup or someone I drafted as a backup. So
Your
goes to show that
defense,
I'm either a good drafter or a terrible drafter. I'm not really sure which one.
your defense and kicker outscored Deontay Johnson, A Chain, Ramondre Stevenson, and Patrick Mahomes all put together.
Speaking of waiver wire pickups, I actually needed a quarterback, and I put Broncos D as my number one waiver choice last week over a starting quarterback
Because
because
that's the way the year. That's my point is I'm having fun with it. I'm just trying to have fun with it. Yeah, it's the way the year is this year. So right now is. But Alex, I would like to go back to Alex. Alex is one of the few teams in the leagues that drafted his core and is starting his core. Like I'll give you a little stick for tight end, kicker, and defense, but who cares? That's
Well,
those.
and,
You
and, in
know,
my, and in my defense, the tight end that I drafted, who's still on my roster, Pitts, had 88 yards on 8 catches, right? So it's not
they're
like
like
I had a bad
16,
tight
yeah,
end. It's
12
just there
points.
was a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
option
yeah.
on waivers, so I went with it.
No, for sure. And Kraft is a great pickup. I mean, I would like to ask you a question in a second about. I was going to ask you, do you plan for all the people out there that owns Pitt or Kraft or maybe have a fantasy league? That's their decision. But for you personally, is Kraft your guy now?
I don't think he's my guy now. He's probably my guy next week. Once the Packers get more healthy, I need to see how that plays out because when you look at the stats and you know me, I discount. I'm never trying to take away from players, but I do this a lot when I analyze people. Kraft's week was great, but how good is his week if I take away his 66-yard touchdown? That doesn't happen often for tight ends, right? That's an anomaly, right? It's not like he's a fly route receiver who's going to get, like a Tyreek Hill style player. So if we take that out, 22 yards and a touch, that's an 8-point day out of a tight end. I'll take that every week. However, I look at Pitts, and last week, as I said, with Pitts' stats, let me pull them up here. And let me share screen with you boys. 1 second here. I was waiting to do this because I don't want you to see some of the intros when I write them, since I'm bashing you guys. But sorry, 1 second. Let me.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm just saying my original point was just also like that. Look at you and Adam's records, top two in breakdown with Nolan, and look at your core. You guys' core is basically who you drafted. The only difference Nolan has made is Cooper Kupp because of injury and then Jordan Love because of injury. But if you look at yours and Adam's cores of who you drafted and who you're playing this week versus, we don't have to get into everyone's specific teams, but like you guys have the same team you drafted and you guys are 1-3 in breakdown.
Well,
so like,
and my
kudos.
Dad, and to be fair to my dad, even like
It's not his
Mayfield,
fault,
who
yeah.
he started instead of Love, like he drafted Mayfield too. It's not like that was waiver pickup.
Exactly.
But going back
exactly.
to what I was
So
talking about,
I'm trying to give you props. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, going back to Pitts, so Pitts 7 for 8 for 88 yards. So like that's a much better day
Sure.
not from a standing standpoint, from an actual outing. However, here's the concern with Pitts. He was still third in the team in targets and receptions, even with 8. Keep in mind, Cousins had a historic day. He threw for over 500 yards. That game was insane. That's not going to happen every week, right? So like I do have to be more realistic about that. So that's why I think I'm probably going to roll with Kraft again this week, just because a couple weeks in a row he's had big games.
It's not the guy.
The Packers have been hurt. I want to see if he keeps it up, and I also want to see what happens with Pitts. Has this been, because one of the things for those who actually follow the news, my boy Cousins had to teach Pitts how to catch. He was catching the ball, always trying to catch it like too close to him and not like out and using his hands properly. So like, I'm wondering if he's made some progress there and he's going to start utilizing Pitts more. Like maybe he's developed more comfort with him. He caught 7 of 8 passes, right? That's a really high catch rate. If Cousins develops that comfort level with him, he might go to him like he did with Hawkinson last year in Minnesota versus, kind of leaving him as the third guy after a Mooney and a London. So.
Well, I don't know if I said this off air or not, but I love that story. That story, I love that story in comparison to Michael Pittman, not to be confused with Pitt. So after Pittman had the year with Matt Ryan and he couldn't have a good year, I was like, okay, I'm writing off Pittman forever, and not just like I'm harsh on him. I know, but now forever, I know. For me, the reason I'm saying that story is because Pitts is in the same situation for me mentally that I did with Pittman. If Pitts can't have a good year with Cousins, when is he ever going to have it? Maybe he's just bad. Maybe the quarterback shouldn't be teaching you how to catch the ball. So like I'm 100% there with you. I'd probably be starting Kraft every week just because if Pitts can't have a good year with Cousins, he's never going to have a good year in the NFL. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I actually am a huge fan of Kraft, and I wasn't until this week. I guess I just wasn't paying enough attention to what the Packers were doing. I was still under the assumption that there was a timeshare between Kraft and Musgrave, because at the beginning of last year, Musgrave had most of the work, and actually Tucker Kraft is getting like 80% snap share every single game this season. And obviously he's gone off the last 2 weeks for the tight end position. And then watching last week's game, there was a lot of discussion about coach talk, how they just love the way Kraft plays football. And I just came to that realization that this guy is probably going to be really good for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I didn't mean to turn about Alex's tight end, but yeah, good choice, good pick. A lot of people get too emotionally attached to their draft picks. You clearly have shown that you're not afraid to bench Pitts. I always love joking with you and Matt drafting Pitts. It's like the little mosquito to the blue light. You guys can't stop drafting him.
Yeah, for sure. The thing about Kraft, though, to Vinny's point, yes, he's been getting the snap share all year, but he's been a blocking tight end. They haven't really used their tight end in the passing game the way they did with Rodgers there. So it's been a little different. However, because of the injuries to wide receiver, and then with Dobbs getting randomly suspended by the team for something, they were so depleted at receiver that they had to use him the last 2 weeks, and that's when he's really popped off. So what I want to see moving forward is, does Green Bay, once they get all their receivers back, go back to, no, we're not a team that uses our tight end, we want them to block, or do they say, you know what, this guy's been so good for us, we're going to adjust our offensive strategy? Because some coordinators are hesitant to adjust. I mean, it's not a good way to be in the NFL, but that's just how people are in real life, so sometimes so we'll see. That kind of on the wait and see bandwagon. So let's move on to our first topic of the day, and let's talk about MVPs. We're about a quarter of the way through the season now, a little more, a little less, depending on how you want to do the math on that. Who do you guys think, as of right now, is on the trajectory to be the league MVP? Not fantasy MVP, but just the league MVP. And you can talk about how that relates to fantasy if you'd like. But who do you think is going to be the league MVP based on where you are right now?
Let's start with the offensive player of the month last month, none other than Mr. Darnold.
Yeah, go for it. Let's hear your argument.
I'm just having fun with this one. I don't think he's going to be a league MVP. I think it's going to be Lamar again, unfortunately. The not unfortunately, just because I don't know why I said unfortunately. I think it's going to be Lamar. I think a lot of people are going to love the Jaden Daniels talk because it's going to push a lot of things on the on media shows. But I think Lamar's already got this kind of locked up right now. And if we were gonna are we doing like league MVPs? I apologize, or like team fantasy MVPs? Like McLaurin might be Sylvie's team fantasy MVP, or are we just doing like actual NFL?
No, actual NFL, like the player.
Okay, yeah.
NFL,
So then I'll just stay with Lamar. I'll just stay with Lamar.
Any argument for Lamar that you want to make, or just?
Oh, just I don't think there's any signs of slowing them down. I think their biggest repercussion was the new offensive line, letting Moses, John Simpson, and oh my God, the other guy is left tackle blank in a second. They had three new guys, but they look really good. And it's just in Arbaugh you trust, in Todd Monken you trust. The ability to just plug and play new guys doesn't matter. I think Lamar had a growing spurt that might have taken maybe 6 months to a year longer than it should have, but he won an MVP last year and is going to have better numbers this year in a down year of QB play. If the Ravens can the Ravens might be number one and also in the AFC when it's all said and done. They have a top defense. I just don't see how he does it. He's gonna have a lot of possessions. I just don't see everything's in his favor right now.
All right, Vinny. What about you? Who do you think is going to be the guy?
So, I mean, obviously, I think the NFL favors teams that are winning. So I think the Darnold pick actually isn't that much of a joke if he can continue. Um, I was looking like, all right, who has the better records? And all of a sudden, I realized that it might be somewhat of a hot take, maybe not so much after 5 weeks. But the Washington Commanders are 4-1. I am not like a huge rookie quarterback fan. But if for whatever reason the Washington Commanders win the division, the Cowboys don't look that good, the Eagles haven't looked that good. Um, if the Giants are the Giants, if the Commanders win the division, Jaden Daniels has to be a serious contender for MVP. I know that he's not passing for a ton of yards, but he's highly efficient. Cliff Kingsbury has just installed a perfect offense for the guy. He's obviously has a ton of rushing yards. The only reason I'm a little hesitant, I don't think they've really beaten anybody good outside the Bengals. They did beat the Bengals by like 5 points in Cincy, but the Bengals are also 1-4. So, but when it comes to Jaden, I just really think that he is. I like I said, it all hinges on the Commanders' success. But if they reach the playoffs or win their division, I don't see how you give it to anybody else but Jaden Daniels for what he's done to that franchise.
Vinny, let me ask you a question real quick. If I had to give you four quarterbacks right now, and if I told you ahead of time that the ranking of their passing yardage and their rushing yardage is the exact same order, I'm going to give you four quarterbacks, rank them in order. I hope that made sense. Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields. Whatever order you put them in, that equivalents to who has more yards and rushing yards. Because I'm telling you, that's the answer. So whoever you put one has the most passing yards and rushing yards of those four quarterbacks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Jaden has the most so far.
He's second, right, behind Lamar.
He's second behind Lamar. I just don't
Yeah.
see how they can give Jaden Lamar when Lamar's got more passing and rushing and a lot more TDs.
All right, boys.
So, I
Well,
mean,
go ahead.
go on.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, no. No, I was just saying it's also interesting. Like Jaden does have four rushing TDs, but Lamar has nine. He's the TD leader right now at nine passing. I know there's been some buys for QBs and blah blah blah, but like, yeah, I just think at this pace. All right, go on, Alex.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously MVP voting. I'd love to sit here and do a dark horse and take a running back or a wide receiver, but realistically, quarterbacks always win the MVP. So shout out to my boy, Derrick Henry, he's killing it. Big fan of running backs, but can't pick him. I am gonna go with an outside shot pick, not because of his play, but because of his team. Give me Joe Burrow to win the MVP this year. So let me see if I can pull him up here, and then I'll give you my reasoning behind that. So here's my boy Burrow. The Bengals are off, no doubt, but players on losing teams don't win the MVP vote. But Burrow is absolutely killing it so far this season. And regardless of the Bengals' issues, which there are many, none of them have to do with the quarterback. Burrow leads the league in touchdowns with 12, and he's only got 2 picks. He's also just outside the top 5 in passing yards, so if he somehow manages to lead the Bengals back to the promised land of the playoffs against all the odds with the giant hole they're starting in, then he's going to be the league MVP hands down. He is absolutely playing like the best quarterback in the NFL right now, so he just needs to find a way to get his team, especially the defensive side of the ball, to not be the worst thing ever, and then they have a real shot. Now, they've played some real garbage opponents and haven't won, but they've also played some good opponents. Like they've played the Ravens, they've played the Chiefs, and they've been in all these games. So it's not like they're just getting blown out or anything, right? So there's a chance, especially with their upcoming schedule, playing the Giants who are bad, the Browns who are bad, the Eagles who have not been great, the Raiders were awful, the Chargers not great. So like they're only playing one like premium team in the next 6 weeks, right? So there's a very real world that 6 weeks from now we're talking about the Bengals being a 6-5 football team as opposed to a 1-4 football team, and then that's a very different conversation about their chances moving forward.
Alex, that's a great, and I'm glad you didn't take the low hanging fruit of of more of an obvious answer. Joe Burrow is a great answer. My question to you is, Vegas right now has the Bengals at over under 8.5 wins on the season. As Vinny's pointed out, like you kind of need to have a top record to get the MVP. Unfortunately, can the Bengals and Joe Burrow, who might have the best stats, would they give it to him with 9 wins?
If 9 wins gets them into the playoffs, yes, because there is a world, especially with 7 playoff teams now in each conference, that 9 wins, 9-8 gets you into the playoffs, right? Like I'm not a fan of those teams when they make it in, but that's a real possibility. And so when you look at the hole they started from, that's going to make a difference. Perfect example is Aaron Rodgers. What was the year that the Packers started like 0-4 or something, and then they just went undefeated the rest of the season or something? That's not the exact, but you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And Rodgers won MVP. So we've seen this blueprint before, and that was when Rodgers was in his prime. So it's like we've seen the blueprint of quarterback in his prime carries team with bad defense to playoffs after a terrible start. It's rare, but it's happened. And when that happened, the guy won the MVP. Well, who's to say it's not going to happen again with Burrow? No, I don't think they're going to run the table necessarily, but there's a very real world that this team that has started 1-4 can end up, 10-7, right? There's a world for that. You know what I mean? Like when you look at their upcoming schedule, like if you look at the teams they play, like realistically, like they're going to play some good defense, which is tough, but they're playing a lot of either currently bad or historically bad teams, right? So like, so after the ones I just read off, right? The only quality opponent on the upcoming schedule is Baltimore. You can make an argument maybe for the Chargers or the Eagles. They're not playing. The Eagles aren't playing great right now. The Chargers are playing better than they can, but yeah. So like,
I would also argue by week 8 the Eagles would be interesting to see where they're at. But yeah, go on.
Okay, anyway, and then when you move past that, like they have Dallas, who Dallas is what they are, right? They're kind of mid. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But other than that, they're playing all bad teams, except for the only team that's quote-unquote good is the Steelers. And I don't think the Steelers are for real with Justin Fields. Do you?
No, and all I meant, Alex, is you said they don't play a good team until Baltimore. I'm just saying week 8, they played Philadelphia before them. I'd be interested to see where Philadelphia is at week 8. That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
I mean, obviously, look, Philly gets healthy and all of a sudden they're a good team again. That changes my argument a little bit. But again,
I get what you're saying. You're 100% right. I apologize.
Even if you just say straight up, hey, they're going to lose to Philly, they're going to lose to Baltimore, they're going to lose to Dallas, and they're going to lose to Pittsburgh.
I get what you're saying. No, it's great.
Or, like that's still a winning record, which is huge when you're starting 1-4.
Definitely. No, that's a great pick. I like that a lot. Making me look at Cameron's team over, and in my money league I have Burrow, so I like the sound of that. And I do apologize earlier. I think I said Lamar had top in TDs. He's third behind in total behind Burrow and Baker. Sorry, tied with Darnold. Third Burrow, Baker, Lamar, Darnold. My fault. So we went with Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. You guys surprised I didn't go Josh Allen?
No, I mean, I looked at, I kind of figured someone was going to take Lamar. That's why I didn't take Lamar.
Right.
To be honest with you, because I mean, yeah, his stats have been great when you consider rushing and receiving and
Passing, yeah.
passing. All right, so now I guess I probably should have done this in a different order, but because I did it this way, we're gonna move on. Who do you think is going to be the rookie of the year? Vinny, I'm gonna let you go first because I think you've already kind of made an argument for that with your MVP pick. So who's going to be the rookie of the year, Vin? You there? You got your mic muted, bud. All right, he might be AFK or something. So Mitch, why don't you go ahead and go first then?
Well, again, I got to go with they're going to heavily favor quarterbacks, which is going to be got to be Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? Like Jaden Daniels might compete for get some NFL MVP votes when it's all said and done. Who knows? So I'm pretty sure he's got locked up rookie of the year. And even if Jaden Daniels wasn't there, as bad as a year as Caleb and Bo Nix might be having, they're going to give it to one of those two, if you know what I mean. But it's going to be Jaden. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, if Vinny's still not back, then I guess I'll go ahead and go. I'm not picking Jaden. I do think he's got a great chance of winning, especially how he's playing right now. However,
Right.
I don't like always picking chalk, so to speak, and I think this person legitimately has a chance. I'm gonna go with Malik Neighbors. So let me pull him up here on the sheet just so people can look at his stats while I'm yapping. So the reason I'm gonna go with Malik Neighbors is he's been an absolute monster. He's averaging nearly 9 catches and 97 yards per game. Those are monster numbers for any wide receiver, much less a rookie. Take the word rookie out of it. If I tell you a wide receiver is averaging 9 grabs and 100 yards a game, that's amazing, right? That's what he's averaging through the 4 games that he has played so far. He's also far and away the Giants' best offensive weapon, and everybody knows it. So defenses are keying in on him, and they still can't stop him unless they knock him out, which is sadly what happened to him 2 weeks ago. So obviously there's a caveat. He's got to come back and be healthy at a concussion. Usually that takes you out a game or two. But even if he misses a couple of weeks, assuming no other injuries moving forward, and he just keeps balling out, like, that's unreal to me, how well he has played as a rookie.
Is he even going to get, do you think he's going to get 1,500 yards?
I'm not saying he's going to maintain that pace, right, of 100 yards
No, but
per game, but I mean,
there's a reason I'm picking that number.
Where he pulls down. I can easily see a world where he makes 90 catches for 1,200 yards, and that's
okay, because Puka Nacua had 1,500 last year. So, and Puka Nacua, I don't think got offensive rookie. Did he? I can't remember.
No,
Jamar Chase got 1,500. Justin Jefferson got 1,500. Anquan Bolden got 1,500. And Randy Moss got 1,400. So the only reason I pick up 1,500 is not fair to Neighbors, but that's the top elite for rookie seasons. And it goes all the way down to like Michael Thomas, 1,200. Garrett Wilson, 1,200. Odell Beckham, 1,300. So Puka Nacua got 1,500 yards last year. So he's got to do better than that just to get some votes, right?
I do think on a yards per game basis, I think he hits 1,500 easily. Whether
I
he
think so
actually
too.
gets there, with a couple injuries, I'm not sure. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I think the hardest part about like when we look at rookie of the year, when you look at like MVP, it's so skewed and biased towards quarterbacks, right? Because it is the most important position. You almost need to have a year where there's just garbage rookie quarterbacks and a Malik Neighbors, and unfortunately, Malik Neighbors is up against Jaden Daniels, who's 4-1, and Caleb Williams, who somehow has the Bears winning football games. So,
And is a quarterback.
and as a quarterback. Yeah, exactly. Um, but I mean, again, I think they really like wins. So let's just say for whatever reason the Commanders and the Bears fall off, the Giants randomly start doing really well, and Neighbors has 1,500 yards. I don't know. This could be. I think Neighbors is the best player in this draft from what I've seen through 5 weeks.
Okay, so CJ Stroud won it over Puka Nacua, correct? Or am I wrong?
uh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty
probably
sure
that
that's
sounds right.
correct. So I think the same thing is going to happen this year. Alex is 100% correct. Malik Neighbors should win it for his historical year, and Puka should win it, but they're going to give it to Caleb or Jaden.
Yeah,
And
I
again,
will
Alex, I
say
appreciate your 2 picks because I'm not trying to argue against you when you're not taking the low hanging fruit, but those are good picks.
All
from a
right.
non from a non from
Maybe
a
now
non
now that you're back, you want to give your take on rookie of the year? I know we already kind of heard your opinion when your MVP argument, but
yeah, I mean, I think if we're actually talking about winning the award, I think we can already assume that it's going to go to Jaden. But if we look at it from a purely who is the best player from an offensive standpoint, I think there's one person who Alex is going to love this answer. I think they've instantly catapulted themselves to top two or three in the position in the entire game,
All got him for
and
Brock.
that is Brock Bowers.
I knew
Yeah,
you were going to
boy.
say that. I whispered it. I might have said it out loud. Go
Yeah,
on.
boy.
I mean, he's
the
putting up. I mean,
Brocktopus.
granted, these are pretty modest, right? Like 60, 100, 41, 19. But when you look at the tight end landscape this year, there's an argument to be made that Brock Bowers is the number one tight end in fantasy football and could translate to number one tight end in football. I think I think he's going to get votes. I really do. Whether or not he's going to top a quarterback, I don't know. But I do think that I mean, what player at any position comes in and is number one at that position their rookie year,
So he's third in
right? I
fantasy
mean,
points. He's first in yards, first in receptions, first in targets.
Oh, good God.
So he leads in targets,
Yeah.
yards, and receptions, and he's third in fantasy
What's-
points, and that's just
What's
because he
even
gets less
worse,
touchdowns.
not meaning to cut you guys off, but even worse is like I think Vinny and I were looking, or we were all looking at the next gen stats. I think I was sending them to you guys, and Brock Bowers is like up there on all the top next gen stats. It's like this guy's always open. It's wild.
yeah. I mean, I guess so honestly, the only person on this list that I'm like would compete for number one tight end is George Kittle. Like George Kittle is the only solid person, but Andrews fell off, Kelsey fell off, Laporta's been hurt, he hasn't been nearly himself. Kincaid hasn't taken that leap that everybody thought. McBride hasn't taken that leap that everybody thought. Goddard's not that good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who could possibly usurp Bowers from potential number one, number two tight end in real football. So yeah,
Right,
I'm gonna
but
throw my hat in the ring for Brock Bowers.
fair enough. I mean, obviously, as you know, I was a big fan of the Raiders drafting him. You weren't. I mean, not because you didn't think he was good, but you thought we had other needs. But I've lived through so many years. In fact, so many years of terrible first round picks. Sylvie texted me the other day asking about the Darius Hayward Bay pick. That happened in
Oh
2008.
man.
I'm still getting flack about it. 16 years later. So yeah, in my lifetime, the Raiders haven't. Oh, at least in my adult lifetime that I've been watching the drafts, the Raiders have not had a quality first round pick. So the fact that we took a guy who was actually a first round caliber player and is actually playing like a first round caliber player in the NFL, I'm beyond stoked about, regardless of the rest of how the team's performing. So
Can I
I mean,
also?
that's not even
Sorry.
talking about like Alex Leatherwood, Cleveland Farrell, Jonathan Abrams, all
Yeah.
like
So
in the last like 4 or 5
here's
years,
yeah,
you know?
here's the thing that's extremely impressive to me with the Bowers thing is look at the other three guys. It's Kittle, Kraft, and Likely, right? So Baltimore scores 30 points a week or whatever. They did 34 points in the last three games. So they're at 30. Then you go to Green Bay's at 27. So these are number two, number five scoring offenses in the league per week points. And then you go all the way down the paper. Let me find the Raiders. Oh, they're 24th at 19 points a game. Like, how is Bowers competing with in a tight end year when tight ends are down and his team's scoring 19 points a week? These other teams are scoring close to 30. The Niners are at 25.2 and they are 8. So it's like where or sorry, what's the team I'm missing? I just missed there. I messed that up. I was looking really fast. But the point is, the other three tight ends have offenses that are scoring 30 points a week in the top 7 or 8. Raiders are in the bottom 5 in the league. Well done, Bowers.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting point right there, Mitch. It's really neat actually. I wouldn't have actually considered that just looking at this, but such a good take.
Yeah, it's just he's really good, and of course Chris always gets the rookie guys. I mean, he had the legendary pickup, and Adam's actually really good at it too. Adam got Jamar Chase in the 6th round his rookie year. Chris got Mahomes in like the 12th round. Like some of the guys in our league are really good fantasy managers. Well done.
Yeah, I'm a little mad at Chris because he was drafting in one of his other leagues, an auction league, and he was, without saying too much input, he was near the point of not knowing who he was drafting, and I was giving him an absolute ration of crap for not drafting Neighbors at the price that Neighbors went for. And apparently after that, Chris went all in on the Neighbors Kool-Aid, and now has him in multiple leagues, and I have him in none. So I'm a little butthurt that I somehow turned Chris on to Neighbors.
I'll be honest. I was hearing a lot of reports, and I think I said in the beginning that I heard Neighbors was there's like five round one wide receivers this year, right? Five. So Leggett, the Kansas City one, Coleman, Harrison, Neighbors, and I might be missing one. So there was like a lot of articles out about it, and it's very rare when all the analysts are like, it's Neighbors, it's Neighbors, it's Neighbors, it's Neighbors, but this is my thing is the Giants are in the same situation they were 4 years ago when they didn't want to resign Danny Dimes, right? But then he won a playoff game, so they said, okay, we'll try it. We'll resign him, give him a bunch of money. Well, fast forward 3 years later, they don't want to pay him next year. This is why I keep bringing up the Drew Lock comments on our podcast. Is what's that going to do to Neighbors? Because the Giants aren't going to pay Jones again. So they have to get out from his contract, which means he's done after this year. So it's like you're either giving Daniel Jones a new contract this offseason or you're done with him. That's the situation. So it's like I just wish the Giants had a more stable franchise and I would have been way higher on Neighbors. I would have been drafting Marvin Harrison in like the second round, like Marvin Harrison was going. But yeah, so it wasn't against Neighbors. I just had so much against the Giants. I guess that's not fair to Neighbors, but whatever.
All right, moving on here. Well, actually not moving. Yeah, so neighbor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's wide receiver 7, even after not playing last week. So you have to assume if he had played last week, he'd be.
Wait, who's that at wide receiver 6?
Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, I was gonna comment on. I was gonna see if
Look
anyone
at that.
about that.
The other rookie. Nah, I just think it's funny. It was
That's a good
me
pick.
throwing. I mean, yeah, it was a needle in the haystack type pick. It's just kind of funny that somehow, if you look at him, what is he only? He probably only has like, oh, he has 22 catches. I wouldn't have assumed that because it seems like the guy that's going like 3 catches for 100 yards and 4 catches for 80
Alex
yards.
Pierce
Yeah.
Well, look at Alex Pierce.
Yeah.
Where's
Man,
Alex Pierce?
I keep picking him up and dropping him. I just can't decide because like he's not
13.
good. Just the one catch. The one catch, man.
He's like
I'm
the
not saying
number
he's
10
not good, but
fantasy.
it's like 3. Like his best game was 5 grabs
No,
and
he's not
56
good.
yards. Like his best like receiving game, not his best fantasy game, obviously, but like it's like he had
And if you think
134 yards and a touch. That's great. How many targets do you have? 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
And all that came on one
Yeah.
play.
And what's crazy is that like you actually look at their team depth chart. He's probably their fourth wide receiver. Yeah, they have Pittman, Downs, Adonai Mitchell, the rookie that they drafted pretty high, and then Alec Pierce, and they're on a bad passing offense. So it's like the number 4 wide receiver on this team is their number 1 fantasy asset.
Yeah, that's not good.
All right, boys and girls, let's move on to the next question on the list. One more in the line of what we've been going through. Comeback player of the year. So we talked about this in the preseason. 40 games were played. I gave you guys some odds on them, who you guys thought it was going to be. Now that we've actually seen the games playing out, who do you guys think is going to be the comeback player of the year? Who wants to go first?
Is this going to be Darnold again? I picked Darnold for 2 of the categories.
All right. Well, okay. Well, you can think about it. If you want to go Darnold, you can. I'll go first because I always have to go last. Don't have to. I always go last because I've been hosting. But I'll go first. And let you guys think about your answers. Let me pull up the QB stats here. Let me
If you say Cousins, who got all his stats in 1 week.
Hold on. Let me. So comeback player of the year. I took a look. I surveyed the landscape. Who did I really feel like was going to be the guy? And I'm doubling down on my boy Kirk Thuggins. Look, he started the season off slow, I admit, but he was coming back from an injury. He's adapting
really
to
slow.
Hold on. He was coming back from an injury, and he was adapting to a new team with new personnel and a new playbook, and that all takes time, right? Takes time. But Captain Kirk is heating up, and he finally got his groove back. Even with a slow start, he is quietly number 5 in passing and number 5 in passing touchdowns in the NFL. So he's still a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League, even with a slow start. Not only that, but he only plays 3 of the top 10 passing defenses the rest of the season, one of which is the week right after his bye week, meaning that he'll have more than enough time to prepare for that game. So he's really going to have 2 super bad matchups the rest of the year. I'm still on the Kirk Cousins bandwagon, and there's plenty of seats for the rest of you, so all aboard.
Would you like to read me? Well, Cousins is number 2 on FanDuel and MGM Grand for odds, second best odds to win comeback player of the year. So I can't kill you that much, but it's just so funny that he gets all his points, all his stats in 1 week. The other couple weeks, like there was 2 defensive touchdowns, otherwise they lose the game. Cousins has to win in overtime against the Chiefs on like the Chiefs blew it, and like I don't know, I'm a big Cousins, but I don't know if he's gonna be benched by week 8 like my original double down, but we'll see. Do you want me to read off the who the Vegas thinks the comeback players of the years are? Or do you want me to pick?
You can do that.
Just
If you
just
if you want to do some setup work, go for it. Give us some setup stats.
It is a setup because it's the same answer. Aaron Rodgers has the best bet for the comeback player of the year, and he's my pick. So the most fascinating story to me last week, and it's just because I love Rodgers, was the
I have to
Rodgers.
scroll pretty far down this list to get to Aaron Rodgers' stat line. Hold on.
Hold on. You don't have to scroll on the
The free
MGM
agent,
Grand
okay.
odds to win comeback player of the year because he's number 1 plus 300. And FanDuel has him at plus 300. Well, I'm just having fun right now, but it was very interesting to me because last week of my interest in Rodgers, and now this week, it's like, let me paint you a scenario right now. Monday night, they go into Buffalo, I think, right? And they win the game. That puts them first in the division. What is the narrative going to be of the Jets and Rodgers when they're first in their division at 4-2 early in the season? Everyone's going to be like, all is fine. All is great. There's your comeback player of the year. Your turn, Vinny.
I am just going to take kind of a somewhat low-hanging fruit. I don't think it's as good of a story. I am assuming that Alex only picked his comeback player of the year because he couldn't choose his MVP as also the comeback player of the year. And I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. I think, it's one of those things. He's just not as good of a story. He did play like 8 games last year. Messed up his wrist. Everybody was talking about how his wrist injury was worse than they thought, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a cheap pick. I was like looking at the list, like Kyler Murray's on there, Justin Fields is on there, Joe Burrow's on there. And
J.K. Dobbins,
I'm
Nick
like,
Chubb.
didn't Justin Fields play all season last year? So like, is it comeback player of the year just because he's on a new team and he's winning games? Like, I'm confused. Like, you don't come back from anything. You just switch teams
from
and
from being
you
bad.
you
He came back from being
you just
bad.
he's just riding his defense. Like, oh, would they have like one offensive touchdown for like 3 games and he somehow was like 3-0. So, but anyways, that's a different soapbox. But I'm going to take Joe Burrow as comeback player of the year. I think it's very reasonable that he leads the league in yards and touchdowns by the end of the year. Honestly, what he did against Baltimore's defense, and I was texting you guys during the game, that play calling in overtime was absolutely atrocious. The fact that they were like in 55-yard field goal range and ran the ball 3 times in a row after he went 30 for 39 for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, I was like, dude, this is some of the worst play calling I've ever seen. They should be 2-3. They shouldn't be 1-4. They should have beaten the good team in the Ravens. I'm all in on Burrow picking it up and honestly being a dark horse in NFL and fantasy moving forward.
It's interesting they have um, Dobbins, Chubb, Daniel Jones, and Anthony Richardson on there. Like Dobbins, I get sure. Chubb hasn't even played yet. How do you know what his odds are? And Anthony Richardson, what did he come back from? So maybe I'm agreeing with you. Some of these might just be Vegas trying to take people's money, but yeah, it's got to be
Yeah.
Rodgers,
Well, Richardson
Cousins,
played three
Darnold,
games.
Burrow.
Richardson was
Yeah.
out all season after playing like 3 games. What did he do? Like dislocate his AC joint or something? Um,
Yeah, I guess that is comebackable, but like you didn't come back from anything. I don't think his career started, in my opinion, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah,
yeah, like Kyler played like the last like 9 games of the season last year. So why is he on comeback player of the year watch
and he's
this
also
year?
played like the last 7 years before that. So it's
And
like,
heaven forbid we put DeMar Hamlin on this list again. And I mean, like Jesus Christ, haven't we played this enough?
well,
This
they
game.
want clicks. Yeah, I think they're trying to get some people's money, but okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's probably the only
I
reason
mean,
Aaron
going back to your
Rodgers is
argument
on there.
about Joe Burrow, I agree with you, Vinny. It's not the story, right? It in a world where Joe Burrow performs well enough to win an award, I think the story is going to be that he led the Bengals back this year from the trash can. Then it's going to be he recovered from injury, right? Like I get what you're saying, and like that's also true. Like he would be deserving of both, but I think the narrative, and a lot of the times these NFL awards are based on narrative. The narrative is going to be, oh my gosh, I can't believe Burrow was able to salvage the Bengals season after their horrendous start and lead them to the promised land. MVP, not this guy made an epic comeback. He came back from injury, because no one's even talking about that, right? No one's talking about how he came back from injury right now when he's got these 12 TDs. They're just about how bad the Bengals are. So
Right. How disgraceful is it though that right now, looking at those odds, that Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins are the top two favorites with like 3-2 records, and Sam Darnold's 5-0, literally been a backup quarterback for the last like 3 years, and it has the third best odds. Like that's such a disgrace to Sam Darnold, in my opinion. Like that's
sure.
just wild to me.
It's so bad because like not only that, but Aaron Rodgers is like a 3-time league MVP and a back-to-back MVP. Like having him as a comeback player, like what's he coming back from? Yeah, an injury, but like he's been at the top of the game forever. Like what? I don't understand. Like Darnold is the obvious answer, I think. But
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And then I pulled up the odds and I was like, this doesn't track. I thought Darnold was like the low-hanging fruit for comeback player of the year, and apparently it's not. It's Rodgers or Thuggins.
Yeah. Which it can't be Thuggins because he's going to be benched by week 9, remember, or 8, right?
I mean that was your argument, but again, I mean if we look at passing yards, my boy Thuggins right up here, behind only Geno, Dak, which what in the world, Geno leading the league in passing yards. Geno, Dak, Stroud, and Purdy, and then TDs again. He's also in 5th behind Burrow, Baker, Darnold, and Lamar. So
is 1,300. How many yards did he throw last week? 1,375. How many yards did Cousins throw last week? Click on Cousins, please.
Like 500 something. He threw a few.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like all 509 yards. What is going on? But
he also had a terrible week 1, right? Like if you take. But I mean, we did the math when we were talking the other day about our pie bet, right? Like you only need to average like 235 a game, right? You take 100 yards.
Right, but he was right on the average. He was right on the average till last week.
Yeah, now he's golden. Now he's golden. I'm on after last week. I'm on pace to win my pie bet. You
are 100%. That's what I'm saying. He's got to stop having the 500. He's got to go back to his average, and I'll be happy.
I just need to swing the rock 58 times a game.
And he has like 3 TDs over 4 weeks, 4 TDs over 4 weeks, and then he gets 4 1 week. It's just like his stats are so skewed. Go on, Vinny.
Can you go back to this list of quarterbacks here? I'm just curious about something. I had no clue that Geno Smith was leading the league in passing yards. He also has 146 rushing yards. So where does he rank on that total yards list, Mitch?
Yeah, well, so the reason I didn't consider Geno, because I actually looked at Geno's stats when I was coming up with my MVP pick. The reason I didn't consider him is just the turnovers are bad. 5 TDs to 4 picks. That's a medium at best ratio, especially this early in the season. Also, he leads the league in yards because he leads the league in attempts. Right, he's thrown 199 passes. When you go down to a guy like Mahomes, only 160. So he's basically played a full other game.
Geno actually has more combined yards than Lamar right now, if I'm doing my math correctly.
Right, but Lamar's got 14 touchdowns and 1 interception.
No. Yeah, I had no clue. That's a wild card for me.
Geno can pick up the TDI-INT ratio. You're saying that's definitely a dark horse.
Yeah,
I didn't
for
realize
sure.
If he's going to be on that, how many times is he attempting a game? That's interesting. I don't want to do research while on air, but yeah, that is interesting. I'll look at that.
Let's see.
Is that 4? That's
25, 44,
40 attempts?
44, 34, 56, and 40. I mean, he other than week 1, he is absolutely slinging the rock every week. So
someone forgot to tell Seattle we're running the ball in the NFL now.
Yeah. So speaking of running the ball, we talked a little bit about Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker last week. Kenneth Walker led the Seahawks in rushes this week with 5. He was their leading rusher with 5 carries. Not leading rusher yardage wise, but like most touches. He had 5 carries. Like you said, they just like, no, we're not gonna run. We ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, it's wild. I didn't realize that Geno was that far up. That's good eye.
That's a really fun stat, Alex, especially after just Kenneth Walker buried my soul on Monday Night Football last week against Matt. So I'm really happy to see that he had 5 rushing attempts last week after going off for like 30 fantasy points the week before.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's ironic. There's actually a little bit of a curse going on, and I'm afraid of that for my intro. I don't know if people have noticed it, but whichever player I hype in the intro has done poorly the next week. So when I thanked James Cook for carrying my team, the next week was James Cook's worst game. When I talk about Kenneth Walker in my intro beating up on you, Vinny, Kenneth Walker's worst game, well, not counting the one he didn't play, obviously, was this week. So whenever I reference a specific player in my intro,
I think you did Barkley too. Week 1, then week 2 he had a bad week. But go on.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, sorry, Barkley too. With every player. So this week I didn't do a player, but I did my whole team. So we'll see how that works. I purposely didn't name a player.
No, why don't you do that against me?
Because I didn't want to jinx a
last
player,
week.
but I did use my team. So like we'll see how that looks. If we do get taken down, I'm definitely going to use this power for evil moving forward. But yeah, go back and listen to every episode. I think every episode, whichever player I reference in the intro speech it's usually because they did a good the week prior, they do poor the next week. It's kind of like the Madden curse. We got the dungeon curse going on over here.
Nice. I'd like to do a little segment if we're done with this segment, if you don't mind bearing with me and musing me real quick. But I'm going to play the role of Vegas, and I'm going to give you an over-under on some of the teams in our league, and you guys pick over or under. So we can start out with Chris. Over under. So let me give a little context. 5 games have played right now. Chris is 1-4. There are 9 games left. Chris is 1-4. Over under 6.5 wins for Chris.
So you're saying he needs to win 6 of the next 9 to be over?
Then yeah, so he'd be 8-6 with that record by the end of the year.
So he's picked up an upgraded quarterback by picking up picking up Cousins to replace Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes not a buy, but as far as fantasy value, Cousins is the play. Obviously, Lennon and Neighbors and Bowers, they're all solid. I think it's going to come down to running backs for him because he's been just decimated with injury, specifically Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby went off this week. It kind of feels like he's taken the job from Etienne, but it's still a timeshare. So, like, when you look at these last 2 weeks, if Bigsby can keep up this production, not because he has these ridiculous games necessarily, but because he starts getting more of the workload, I think there's a chance he could get the over. However, I'm not sold on that, and I'm certainly not sold on Ramondre Stevenson. So because he went 0 running back and still doesn't have any, not that he intended to, he took McCaffrey and Achane, obviously, but because of the situation he's in at running back, I'm going to say the under for Chris.
The under for Chris. What about
Well, hold on,
I think that's a little bit of an aggressive over under because he does have to win 6 of the next 9 to hit that. I'll still say it. I think this is the most unlucky team in fantasy this year. I look at this roster and I'm like, surely this roster could win 6 of 9 games. It just hasn't. So I'm taking the under.
Yes.
No offense to Chris.
Yes.
That definitely juked me out, Alex, because I was going to ask you to click on that. I did not know it was going to be an NFL schedule, so I thought it'd be like
yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was going to look at the schedule for these over-unders. We should probably bring this up.
Yeah, go to
Chris. Let's just say 2 losses automatically are Nolan and Mitch, right?
Well,
and then he still has...
break.
He still has to play break.
Miles.
He still has to play Matt.
Miles.
Who I know Matt's not great, but Matt is on a 2-game winning streak, and you never count Matt out.
He's got to play Luis. Yeah, I don't.
Miles,
I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under for sure. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Next person. Let's go with Matt Black.
Professor Chaos.
Vegas
has currently 2 and 3. What's you setting the line at?
Same line, 6.5 or whatever. No, sorry, 7.5. 1 game higher. Vegas last, I wrote it down. I just can't read. Vegas has him at 7.5 wins. So his record would be.
He's got same as Chris. He's got to win 6 of his remaining 9 games.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So with Matt's losses, it's important to see like what you score in a loss. It is worth noting in his last 2 weeks, his scores have improved, 92 and 86. He had some horrendous ones during the course of league play, but his last 2 weeks his scores have been better. Looking at his upcoming schedule, he's still got to play Sparkplugs, Penguins, me, and Luis again. That's 4 tough matchups. Let's see what his team looks like. Is there a way to see his team from here? No, I guess I have to go this way. Sorry.
No, yeah, it's kind of random. I was going to say, technically, you could click on another team and then click on him, but...
Yeah, anyway. So looking at his team, yeah, so I think he's kind of in the same situation I gave with Chris. The wide receivers I like. The running backs is where the concern is, right? Kenneth Walker, he has been a world beater some weeks, and he's been non-existent others. And then Chuba Hubbard, how long does he keep that up? He's been fantastic. What happens when Jonathan Brooks comes back? When Brooks comes back, they're like, hey, you know what? Thanks for doing your thing. but we're going to hand the ball off to the rookie now? Because, like, if Hubbard keeps popping off, this is an RB1 quality player. Like, if you look at his last 3 weeks, he's one of the top running backs in fantasy football, right? Yardage, touchdowns, everything. But does that, when Jonathan Brooks comes off the IR and gets a lot, well, he's not even on IR, but when Jonathan Brooks comes back allowed to play, how much does the rookie eat into Chuba Hubbard's workload? Even if he's still the guy, if he goes from an 80% snap share down to 50%, that's still a huge loss.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the under on this one again. Obviously, I have vested interest in Jonathan Brooks coming back, but even then, I don't trust Kenneth Walker. I don't trust Richardson or Purdy. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown as a player and as a wide receiver. I just don't think in our format he's a top 5 wide receiver. He's a high target, high reception, high yards guy. He just doesn't get as many touchdowns as like the Jamar Chases and AJ Browns of the world. So, I'm going to take the under. I think 6 of 9. 6 of 9 is still aggressive.
Agreed. Vegas might have set the bar too high for Professor Chaos just based on his track record. But yeah, I agree. I could do the next one now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next one, Vegas loves the Flying Penguins, 9.5 wins. So he has to go 6-3 over the next, or 7-2 over the next, either one over the next 9 games.
Sorry, which team is this?
Flying Penguins. Is at 9.5.
So 9.5. They currently have 3. So you got to win 7 of the remaining 9.
So he's either going 6-3 or 7-2. I told you Vegas likes the Penguins. It's not Adam's fault if you take the under on this. It's just Vegas likes the Penguins.
Well, I mean, so my concern is Nico Collins, number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football, is now on IR. He's going to miss at least 4 games. That's a big hit because when you look at his backup wide receivers, it's kind of thin. I don't trust DeAndre Hopkins at all. So it's going to come down to Jameson Williams, who, look at his games, right? Like, the first 2 weeks, I talked about this, the first 2 weeks, yeah. I was big on Jameson Williams. I was big on him. His last 2 weeks, not so much. Like, sure, he scored 14 fantasy points on 80 yards and a touch, but that's on 2 receptions, 2 targets. The week before, only 1 target for 9 yards. He has not been utilized in this offense the last 2 weeks. So the weeks you have to have him replace Nico for at least 4, I'm a little concerned from that standpoint. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor. If Taylor's healthy, love the running backs. If he's not healthy, I don't because I don't like Gibson. So I think it has through these injuries. If Taylor is healthy and Jameson Williams can fill in, then he makes the over. But because it's such a high bar, I'm going to take the under. Let's look at his schedule. But yeah.
Look at Lamar real quick before you go to schedule. This is why Vegas loves the Penguins. Look at those 26-27, 27-40.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. And he's already played, I think, Miles and Nolan, right? Go to his schedule.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that's why the Vegas loves the Penguins. It's not your guys' fault.
I think the Penguins are definitely one of the top teams in the league. I think that's like an easy assumption to make.
Does this help at all? No, that's too confusing.
No, that's
No, he's played Adam and Miles there. Lost to Miles and Adam. That's his 2 losses. I mean, Miles and Nolan are his 2 losses.
Well, and his losses were also where he was the high, scored well and lost 102 points and lost. And he's 105
and in
points
my opinion, you're playing 2 of the best teams besides yours, Alex. So it's like
you've got to play me,
that's it.
And then Vinny and Miles again. So
that's the 2 or 3 losses.
Vegas
did some research on this, okay?
Yeah, looking at his schedule, a lot more on board. But go ahead, Vin.
I'm gonna play pessimist on this, and I'm gonna take my 3rd under in a row at 1. If we can sit here and say that like Chris's team is the most underperforming team in the league, then I'm gonna say Adam so far is the most overperforming team in the league.
Oh, that's some shade. Adam. If you're gonna listen to one podcast. Shade. Yeah, if
I don't know how you're going to say that.
Out of all of them, Adam, you got to listen to this one.
It's nothing against his team. I'm just looking at it, and it's like sometimes I look at rosters, and maybe this is one of those teams that you're just like, I don't love it, but it's really good. You know what I mean? You know how like sometimes that happens? I think Jonathan Taylor is good, not great. Connor is good, not great. Nico Collins is going on IR. Like I don't think he has a good tight end. He's starting Gesicki or Njoku. Like Lamar's gonna have some up and down games. I don't know. I think it's like a lot of good, not great, but maybe it's just so far they've been balancing each other really well.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like
So I don't know.
Lamar's great, Connor's solid. Like yeah, losing Nico was a big loss, but he'll be back in a few weeks, so we'll see. Brandon Ayuk is finally playing like Brandon Ayuk. I mean, it's only one game. I'm not going to overreact too much, but there's a chance that he's back, and if he's back, that's a huge game. Like 8 catches, 12 targets, $147. Like that's what you expected when you drafted Ayuk. So, and even in the tight
Yeah,
end position,
I'll,
look, eventually they're going to have to move on from Deshaun Watson. The dude can't play football, and when he does, Njoku's a good player. The reason he's not good this year is because he doesn't have Flacco throwing him the ball. He's got Watson. Whoever the backup is, they're much more likely to complete a pass to Njoku, and then all of a sudden he might have a tight end as well. So, I mean, I do agree
yeah.
that his team is looked like there's a question with Taylor and Collins, but I think if Taylor and Collins are both healthy and playing, I still love this team.
Oh no, I agree. Like a lot of my opinion hinges on the fact that Nico Collins is out, and then we don't really know when Jonathan Taylor's coming back.
Sure.
So, um,
All right, Mitch, give us the next one.
yeah.
All right, remember, don't get mad at me. It's Vegas, but we go Team Phoenix.
So, well, just for clarity, what do you mean by Vegas? Who?
Like
It's
I'm joking. I'm Vegas.
he's
I'm
Gotcha.
joking
he's
around.
Okay.
Vegas.
Gotcha.
I'm joking. Uh, Vegas put Team Phoenix. They did love the Penguins. They don't love Phoenix so much. They've got them at 8.5.
8.5. So Vinny's got to win 6 of the next 9 to hit the over. We've taken the under across the board. I never guess I gave an official answer. Break schedule is very favorable, but I think with the injuries I'm going to take the under just because that's a high bar, 7-2. Anyway, so
I'm gonna go the over on Adam for the record. By the way, just one.
if not for the injury to both Taylor and Collins, I'd be more willing to take the over. But injuries to both of them is rough. There's also
For sure.
there's also the coach factor. You have to assume that there might be a
Oh
week where
no,
Break
the
just set his
shade,
lineup.
the shade
And,
is coming in strong.
look, bye weeks are going to come up soon, right? And when the bye weeks happen, there's a very real scenario where Break just doesn't check his lineup. All right. So, anywho, moving on to Team Phoenix. So we think Phoenix got to get 6 more dubs. So let's take a look at his team. I mean, the
It's
biggest thing I
between 5
look
and
at
6
is
more
like, man,
dubs.
the
5 and
hole at
4,
wide
6
receiver
and
where
3.
Terry McLaurin used to be. Talk about a hole. If he still had Terry McLaurin, I'd love this team. But that's a big loss. No, but
Alex, if you Google next gen stats, who gets the most percentage of their team's passes, like incomplete passes, just any pass, it's air yards or whatever. McLaurin's like 57% number one. It's not
for
even
sure, I
close.
believe it. I believe it for sure. But no. Anywho, yeah, I don't know. 6 wins. I'll have to look at his schedule. I like the team if people are playing and healthy, which looks like they finally are. If AJ Brown is coming back, so
AJ's back this week, baby. No injury designation.
yeah,
Full participant in practice.
Let's take a look at the actual schedule for this guy here.
I can tell you that my next 3 weeks are a gauntlet.
That's the only reason I put you at 8.5.
Well,
I really wanted you
you've got
to put you
3
at
losses to
9.5.
give, right? And so 1, 2, 3 right here. 4 with Brett. Yeah, I got to take the under. I think you've got 4 tough matchups, and Mitch. I can't call Mitch a tough matchup after what he did this week, but yeah, I can't give you 6 more dubs with those. And also like, and no shade to Miles. Like Miles is in there, can't like, I don't know. I feel like I feel
So,
like
Alex,
Vinny has a much more difficult schedule than the ones we've looked at so far of the over-unders you've presented.
I want to save face here because Vegas gave him a hard line, but I will pick the over. But that's why I wanted to go at 9.5 for this. But then you look at his schedule and it's like, oh no, it's not Vinny's fault, and Vinny scored really well on points and stuff, so it's not anything against that. His breakdown's fine. It's just, yeah, he's got some guys that are playing well late that he's going to have to go up against, and the Miles matchup week 12 like might honestly decide the division, and because Adam might run away with or the wild card in my opinion. Wild card's not coming from me. Nolan's got the division. It could come from Luis or Vinny is what I'm trying to say, or Miles, because I think Adam might run away. I made that too wordy, but I actually looked into this a lot and I was like, dang, I really want to give Vinny 7 more wins, 6 more, but look at that schedule. Hey, Vinny, if you pull it off, well done. You should have bet against Vegas.
Yeah, no, I think I text you guys even today a couple times, and I was like, listen, if I come out of these next 3 games 4-4, I'll feel like it's a win.
Oh,
If I
you'd
come
be
out of it,
champion.
if
Yeah.
I come out of it, if I come out of it 5-3, it's like a free win. It's like going through a tough stretch in your schedule, and you're like, well, all of a sudden we won all those games.
Oh no, if you come out of
Um,
this 5-3, I might pick you to win the league this year.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think what my team hinges on is one being healthy. It's the first time all year since week one that I've been healthy. The team, I was telling you guys, I'm fourth in breakdown, and that's with 53
Right.
points. So like going 0 and 11 one week, and yet I'm
Right.
still fourth in breakdown. And then, lastly, if we assume that Chuba Hubbard has RB1 potential, then you assume that Jonathan Brooks, if he comes back and takes that load, also has RB1 potential. So I will say I drafted Jonathan Brooks in a lot of leagues, assuming that, and assuming the Panthers would be better. Since they're so bad, I'm concerned that maybe they're not going to let him tote the rock until later in the year. And if they do, it'll be like a split committee. So I don't know.
I
It's all
think
about health. It's all about health. I'm lucky right now. My team is healthy. I haven't had AJ Brown for 4 weeks. So, we'll see how that works out, which has also really severely impacted Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts' last 2 weeks, he didn't have Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. Like obviously you're going to be a trash quarterback when your top three target or top two targets are gone. So
two things for
you're
you,
not
Vegas.
he's not
Sorry.
Patrick Mahomes. I picked the under. I'm gonna go under. I'm 4 for 4 on
No, I'm
unders.
gonna go. I'm gonna go over for two reasons, and I wanted to give you a higher 9.5 average, but I just wanted people to actually have a discussion about it because everyone would take the under if I gave you that. But Jonathan Brooks coming back the same time Emmanuel Wilson's going to come back is going to hurt Josh Jacobs. I don't know why you draft someone in the third round and not play him once he comes back off IR. So that's very well timing on your like, and then you might have the biggest lottery ticket in all of. I thought the lottery ticket, well, Jordan Mason or the backup to the Christian McCaffrey, but you might have the second biggest lottery ticket or the biggest lottery ticket in all of football this year, which Alex doesn't want to hear. But Ray Davis, if anything happens to Cook, Ray Davis is a number 1, 2, or 3 fantasy running back. It's like so you will slot in a top 3 fantasy running back. That's a lot of upside potential. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, if you've noticed, I've played the waiver wire a lot the last couple of weeks, and Ray Davis, even though he's averaging 2 points a game, has not been the guy that I've dropped. So,
Right. Yep.
um,
I know you're
yeah.
keeping him. Yeah.
All right, any others over there, Vegas?
Yeah, we could move on to Vegas really likes this team. Really likes this team. And that's the spark plugs. Are we going to have 11.5 line over or under?
Spark plugs.
Vegas is like this team a lot this year. Vegas can't stop
Yes.
talking about this team. So,
He's got two of my favorite players. He's got Justin
uh,
All
Jefferson
right,
and
Vinny,
Derrick
I'll, I'll,
Henry.
I'll
Like,
let you go first on the spark plugs.
11 and a half, and what's he sitting at right now? Is he
5 and
4-1?
0. 5 and 0.
He's 5-0.
Yeah.
Oh God! So all he has to do is win 7 of his next 9, and he's in a super weak division this year. Um,
That's right.
yeah, this team is so stacked. I'm going in the over. I mean, just look at even his bench could beat most teams at this
Yeah, it
point.
can.
So
It really could.
yeah, I'm gonna go the over. Baker's gonna continue to do what he's doing. Henry is a touchdown machine. Jefferson, he gets cut back. Yeah, this is going to be a good team. He just needs to stay healthy at running back because I think if he can keep rolling out
What if he gets
Henry and
even
Robinson, he'll
healthier
be
with Cup
fine.
too? Yeah, that's scary because he can replace Watson with
Yeah,
Cup eventually.
I'll take the over. I feel like he's played a lot of the hard teams already. He's already played Adam.
So
Yeah,
my
I'll
concern
take the over here.
my concern with Robinson is just they've got 3 backs right now that are all eating goal line carries. And I mean this week seven totes for 18 yards and 2 touches. Like he was salvaged by the touchdowns, right? 7 carries for 18 yards. That's a low touch count and a low yards per carry. And you had 2 other running backs also get carries and get it and draw end zone. So that's just kind of only one got in the end zone, but they still got like red zone carries, which is like concerning because if you're the goal line guy and other guys are getting goal line carries, that's not good, right? So that's my one concern there. Although Rashad White on his bench, he's been okay. So we'll see. But yeah,
I just
what
think
was what
Justin
was the what
Jefferson
was
and
the line
Henry can
set
win
at?
him 11 and a half,
He's got to win another
6 or 7.
7.
7.
Let's look at his schedule.
Well, yeah, 6 below 7 above.
All right, so pull up Spark
I
Plugs.
just think Justin Jefferson Henry can win him any week. Any week when the QBs aren't scoring with their, let's say they're a little bit down than normal. Yeah, with those two players, it's just phenomenal.
I mean, he's still got a bunch of tough matchups. Is the thing like yeah, the team is great, but it's always hard to pick a team and say yeah they're gonna run the table, right? Um, but the team's been great. I've taken the under because I think a lot of these lines are so bad. And not that you did a bad job, just like they you're supposed to set a line where like you really have to think about it. Like most of these I haven't had to think about. Um, I just
Well,
think it's
what would
not
you set the
realistic
line then?
to have players
I think you're thinking about them.
play above the rim. I mean I think bye weeks are a thing too, right? Like as we get into the bye week season, like it's gonna make a difference. Like I was fortunate this week to get to play when Barkley was on a bye. Like it didn't matter at all because my team balled out and you're sucked out loud. But like there are situations where like that's gonna matter when your key players have a bye. So I feel
Sure.
like he's gonna have, and I don't know what they are exactly. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't gone through and looked, but like there's probably gonna be a week where he plays like a Matt, who's a surging team right now, and he's got one of his ballers on a bye, and Matt's got his team at full strength, and Matt gets that W, even though it's not an expected win necessarily on paper. So because of that, I'm going to take the under.
Gotcha. But I think we've debated both sides.
We'll have for content, but I'm talking about like internally, like my own like internal thought process. A lot of these lines have been pretty high, but that's fair. I mean, it's fair. We have debated a couple.
I should have gone down a game on each person.
Not on each of them, but on some of them for sure. I think it was a little high.
All right,
Anyway,
let's go down a person. Let's go down a line.
No,
for the
well,
next
let's
team.
keep going. Yeah, we got a little time left.
I'll just do the Sharks and Miles left or whatever, or we can go faster if we want. But
Well, we got to do your own team. But yeah.
I wasn't. Vegas doesn't do his own team, okay? You know?
All right. Well,
Vegas-
let's go ahead and do the Sharks then. I guess we should look at my team first. So
The Sharks are what I would have probably put Nolan's team at the real line, 10.5. But I just,
I got to win.
was having
Got to
fun with
win
it. I like
6
Nolan's
of the next 9. Looking
Yep.
at my squad here. I mean, my big concern is running back. That's kind of what it was coming out of the draft too. Aaron Jones has that hip injury. Now he gets to rest on a bye this week, so I need him to come back. But there's a chance that a bye this week and not at full strength next week. So there's a chance that I'm 2 weeks without peak Aaron Jones. James Cook also picked up the plus sign. And then also just on my backup side of things, I think either Singletary or Tracy are both quality backups. The problem is they're on the same team, and if they both play, that's not good for me. I need one of them to miss the game. I need Singletary to still be hurt, so Tracy gets the workload, or for them to say, you know what, Singletary's back at full health, Tracy, you're back on the bench, and I don't see that happening. So realistically, I think for this week with Jones on a bye, I really need Singletary to not suit up this week. Which like I don't like saying that. I'm not like anti-player or anything, but yeah. Anyway,
For no rhyme or reason, Alex, and it would be fine with me because the Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl last year. But the Chiefs started out 6-1, and then if you had to guess, what do you think they went over their next 10 games?
if,
5-5.
sorry the
The
who?
Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl last year, right?
Yeah.
They started 6-1, and then they ended up going 5-5 over their last 10 games. The
Yeah, but I
Chiefs,
don't know that
Kansas
I'm going to
City
coast like they did. I may I may keep my foot on the gas.
I'm hoping it's the same thing, and I wouldn't mind if you won the Super Bowl, but I'm hoping for a 500 finish, Alex. That'd be nice.
Rude. You
Yeah.
don't know my interest. What about you, Vin? What do you think? Oh, I'm clicking the wrong thing. What do you think about my team's
I'm
chances?
I like your team. I do think it's kind of funny you picked up Michael Pittman, and then I just read like right before this that he might go on IR because of a back injury. So it's funny you dropped him and picked him back up, and now he's going to IR. I think for me, and I was texting you guys this weekend. I think for me, my biggest flag about your team is it really hinges on whether or not the Cowboys are good and whether or not their offense is good. Dak and CD, I just don't know who's drawing the double coverage from CD at all because their other wide receivers are terrible. I don't think there's a running threat. I think that hurts Dak. I think just with your remaining schedule, I'm going to go with the over. I hope you lose to me and then beat everybody else because it's in my best interest. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I really want him to win 2 of the next 3 weeks, for being honest. But no, I think 6 wins is doable. You're 5-0. I'm not going to bet against a team that's 5-0. Although what are all these 80-point wins? What was your week 1 win? Yeah, you scored over 100 that week. Now 97.
I don't understand what the hate. Oh, I was also the top scorer that week, right? So like that was a low week for
Dude,
everybody. For context,
you haven't had someone score over 70 points against you since week 1.
Fantasy
Oh my God.
D. I preach
Dude,
it,
that is-
son. I preach it
when I was
every
when
week.
Vegas was doing the research, he still has a third best breakdown. So it's unfortunate
Yeah.
that people aren't scoring against him, but he's still scoring good points every week.
Yeah, I have to take the over on this one. I think he's gotten some of the hard games out of the way.
I don't
I
want
don't
to take
think
the
he's
over,
in the
but I have to
I don't
too.
think he's I don't think he's in the strongest division.
I do
And
get to play.
again,
I
I'm
do
not
get to play
gonna
break when Nico Collins is still out, which is great.
You got me with Barkley
Yeah.
on a bye.
Yeah.
Not that it would have
I'm not-
mattered.
I will say,
I'm not
I will
gonna-
say, it's kind of great for me that one of the best teams in the league is my dad, and that's why I play week 11. Look at my team week 11. So
Are you all on a bye? Every single
I've
one?
got 3 guys on a bye. I'm already
Oh,
missing
no.
a lot of stuff on
Well,
week 11.
well done, Alex. Well done.
So that kind of works out well for me. All right, boys.
No.
Are there any more? Because we got to kind of wrap this up. We are a little past time here. Any more do we want to go over? Or are we
Just
good?
because he's a resident one, we just do one more. We could go fast. Let's do Team Dinosaurs.
Oh,
And
no,
he's
no,
at-
we'll give him the full treatment. I don't want to leave him out.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
That's fine because
And-
I was gonna set Mitchell's over under at 3.5, and I was gonna choose the under. So we'll just get that one out of the way.
All
Hey,
right.
Vegas can't do his own team. Okay, I'll do 8.5 for Team Dinosaurs.
8.5, which means okay, but he's 2-3 right now. So 8.5 means he's got to win 7 of the next 9. So Mitch has high hopes. I mean, which you did pick him to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Obviously, QB and running back are solid. Now the one concern here is, does CMC ever walk again? Right? Because if he does, then this guy may not be the guy anymore. But for now, we kind of have to assume he does. CMC's got a lot of problems. Anytime you got someone going overseas to see a doctor, that's not a good sign. So yeah,
Kyron
if we
Williams on
look
the
at the
bench.
team as a whole, he's also got Kyron Williams on the bench, so he's got running backs for days. I think his big weakness is wide receiver, right? Like he needs Darnell Mooney to keep doing well, which I'm gonna have to say he's going to because I've got Kirk Cousins MVP. But yeah, I think the only real hole on Miles' team is at wide receiver. And then let's
Olave
look at
needs to
his-
step up.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Did you guys see his most 4 targets, 2
Yeah.
grabs for 10 yards? That was rough.
Well,
So
and saying he has to step up with Spencer Rattler now coming in is pretty bold. So
It might be
Yeah,
better for him though. I don't know. He's not.
I
Good.
don't
He
like-
could be worse. You think? Sorry.
no, I just don't like his wide receivers. I think his quarterbacks are fairly boom or bust. So, but dang, that running back room is so good.
yeah, I think he's got a. I think it's up to coaching, which he's currently one of the top 2 rated coaches in the league. They said I think our matchup this week is between the 2 best coaches or something. But because yeah, I think when he makes the right decision on who to start, Murray versus Daniels, that's going to go a big way for him. If he picks the right, because they both have the potential to have a great week, but also the potential to have a medium or worse week. So like if he picks the right QB, I think his chances of winning go way up. But I agree with Vinny. I don't like the wide receivers that he's got. Obviously, part of it because Olave didn't, is kind of in a bad situation. But yeah, so let's look at his thing. Obviously, I'm going to give him a loss this week. I have to pick me, right? I'm biased. He plays Dad. He plays Phoenix. He plays Penguins. He plays Luis still. He's got quite a few tough matchups still on the schedule, and you think he's got to win 7. So I'm going to have to take the under just because you set the line so high for him. You gave him a high
Sure,
bar.
that's fine.
So it's
I
not,
give him a
it's
high
not,
bar
It's
for
not
2 or 3
anti him,
losses.
but it's. I do like his roster. Like I do, other than the wide receiver core. But it's just, I think he has a really tough remaining schedule. Like when you look at all the games left on his schedule, they're pretty
You
challenging.
gave
like,
him.
like-
You only gave him 4 losses though. I gave him 3, so we were very close. You give him a
1,
loss to yourself.
2,
two.
3, 4, 5. Those are all potential losses.
I think he's got better team than Vinny and Luis.
I'm not guaranteeing losses in these. I'm saying
Sure.
potential losses. These are
Potential,
games that
gotcha.
again, I don't know how the buys play out. I don't know how people are going to perform. But like, I think
True.
those are 5 weeks that I can see going either way. And then
True.
there's always the outside chance that one of these unlucky or poor rosters, like we talked to Austin last week, there's always a chance that his roster finally comes together by the time Miles plays him in 3 weeks, and then that can be a loss too. So I just think he's got too many of the quality opponents left on his schedule to think he's going to win 7 of the next 9.
well, maybe
Yeah.
Vegas was a bit too nice to its audience this
Yeah,
week because
look,
it didn't want to upset
Vegas had
anyone.
high hopes for everybody.
I didn't want
Which
to upset anyone. Okay, I like our viewers.
And no, hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here, boys. Any final parting thoughts? Anything anyone wants to say? For teams that we didn't do odds for, we'll get you guys next time. We're just running out of time, so we haven't forgot about you. We will do the odds for your team. We're just running out of time here, so we'll wrap this up and do you guys next time. So, boys, anything you want to say to the audience out there?
Nope, I had a lot of fun and thank you for listening.
Yeah. I just want to say, go Raiders. It would be really unfortunate if we all go to the game and they lose this week. So I don't know the last time I've seen the Raiders win in person. It's just like the last time I don't know the last time I saw Auburn win in person. So I'm not very optimistic. So I hope all the Steelers break a leg at some point getting off the plane, and that the Raiders actually have a chance to win this week.
Yeah, this may be one of the few times that a podcast has almost their entire listening audience go to a game together. So yeah, hope to see you all there, and peace out and have a great weekend, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.